No offense, David Jaffe, but that's bullshit.
Well, welcome. Welcome, my delightful didgeridoos, to the Gabbin' into Games for Monday, what do we got going on? What is it? It's Monday, I don't fucking know, the 16th. And yes, that was Astrobot music. Good to have you back into the fold, good sir, a cab. Nice to see you, buddy. Who's playing the Astrobot? A lot of people are. We're going to talk about some new, at least American sales figures a little bit today. We're going to talk about Bungie's new game today. A little bit of news there, both politically inside the company, what's going on, but also the price point and what kind of game it may be. We're going to talk about the culture wars. I know we're all tired of the culture wars. I've fought in those wars for a very long time. But there's about 4 news stories that hit today to suggest the pendulum, especially as it relates to video game content, is swinging a little bit more back to the center, which I have some thoughts on. I want to talk about that and some other stuff as well. How are you guys doing? How was your weekend? Zack says he got Astro Platinum the other night. I'll tell you what, man. No, thank you. I like that game a lot. I was up late playing it last night, but there is absolutely no way I will be getting the platinum. I saw what I think is one of the final challenge modes. Excuse me. And I'm just like, yeah, that's not happening for me. If I can't slow the speed of the game down, that is simply not going to happen for your Papa Jaffe. Addy Pie says he's going to start playing Lollipop Chainsaw. I'm waiting on that, man. I hear it's very, very buggy, which is kind of crazy, given that it's a remaster. I mean, not necessarily. I mean, I don't know how much they redid. Did they redo the whole thing in a brand new engine or what the fuck? But I hear if you're going to play that game, best to wait for a patch. But that's certainly what I'm going to do. I just purchased, about 20 minutes before we went live, Space Marine, which I am looking forward very, very much to playing. But first, I want to tell you something super important. I'm on the beach the other night. Me and the family are walking on the Torrey Pines beach, as we are wont to do. And I feel this sharp as fuck pain in my wrist. And I'm like, what in the fuck was that? It just hit me out of nowhere. And I'm like, what? And I look down, and there's what looks like a little barb coming out of my wrist. And I'm like, well, there aren't bees on the fucking beach, are there? Turns out there are. I haven't been stung by a bee in ages. And the last time I was probably stung by a bee, if I recall, I was like 11 years old walking in the woods in Alabama, and I got stung by probably 40 bees at once because we walked into a bee's nest, and talk about some fucking pain. But I don't remember it hurting this bad, right? And as I was with my son and my ex, and we're walking on the beach, and it's annoying. She's usually right about all kinds of things. And she's like, when you get home, you need to put Bactine on that, and I'm like, it's a bee sting. Who gives a shit? It hurts, but, so you should put some Bactine on it. It'll get infected. Whatever. I'm not going to put any fucking Bactine on a bee sting. Well, it's kind of gotten infected a little bit. God damn it. Why is she always right? It's one of the reasons I divorced her. That's not true, but god damn. She's always right. One day she's going to be wrong about something. Maybe it was a sand wasp or a digger wasp. I don't know, Mutimo, what it was, but it hurt, and it hurt then, and it hurts now. I just did, it's like, well, what the fuck? What's a bee sting? Who fucking puts, Neosporin on a fucking bee sting? I guess people who don't want it to hurt later. I don't think you can die from a bee sting, Addy Pie. But anyway, point is, I wanted to share that because your old Papa Jaffe's I'm not in a great deal of pain, but it is itching. It is inflamed. And it's kind of annoying to me. So I needed that information to be in your brain pan, and now it is. Okay, listen. Also, your grandma says put honey on it. Thank you, Grandma Bulbo. Honey, interesting. Will Hey, we got different era dropping the first super chat of the day. He says, "Hey Jaffe, look, will PS5 Pros 2 terabytes SSD be internal or external?" I don't know. I appreciate I appreciate that you paid for the question, but I'm not a. I mean, haven't they? Isn't that why people are buying a bunch of things too? Yeah, Awesome Tatum says internal. There you go. Thank you, buddy. But I mean, so what is the thing that everybody's buying up that they're scalping? That's just like a different drive. That's not the SSD. That's just like a storage drive. That's not the main drive, or what? Because I know a bunch of people are buying those up in preparation to scalp when the Pro comes out. Mutant Mo says that kid McCluckly Clucklin in My Girl died when he got stung by a bee, so it can happen. That's true. Bukaki says he got stung by a wasp on his face, and I didn't cry about it for days like you just did. You know what, bitch? Here's the thought. That's probably because your face is in constant pain because of all the fucking heroin you do. I don't know how heroin works. Somebody back me up. Is that what heroin does? Not knowing if something is external or internal is a problem Jaffe has. Awesome. I liked Stoner Joe more when he was dealing with massive depression and, schizophrenia. Now that he's on meds and he's healthy, he's really smart. He's smart and he's funny and he's tuned into what we're talking about. Now I got to fucking put up with his dumb ass. Jesus, I liked you better when you were crazy, sir. Oh, well. Okay. Listen to this, man. Listen to this. The First Omen. I talked about this on Friday, but I finished watching it last night as well. Look at me scratching this thing all day long. I liked this movie a lot. Has anybody seen this fucking movie? It sounds like a cab has seen it in the theater. I was like aware of it. I'm like, whatever. I never saw the original Omen movies. And this is a prequel, and it ends right where the first Omen begins. And I thought that was cool. And then I looked into the first Omen, and I did not know it was directed by Richard Donner, who directed The Goonies and Superman 1 and 2 and Lethal Weapon and all of that shit, right? What's weird about this movie, though, which I don't understand, and I don't think I'm giving anything away. Everybody knows the Omen or Damien is the Antichrist. You don't like that poster, Addie Pie? I don't think this is the main poster, the first Omen. The one that I think was the theatrical print was this one. But anyway, so the movie, it was either this one as the main print, where she's kind of standing like Damien was in the original, or this one with her face, or this one with her kind of hanging. So I don't really know which one the main one was. But anyway, point being though, here's a good one. Point being though, the whole point of it is that the church apparently is trying to birth the Antichrist because they feel that people have walked away from religion. This is set in like 1971, and they want to bring the Antichrist back in order. Yeah, it's the prequel. Awesome. And they want to birth the Antichrist in order to show people how horrible the devil is, and then they will return to Christianity. And I'm kind of like, okay, well, doesn't that make them the good guys? Like, I know it's weird because it's like, okay, well, if the Antichrist is real, then it means, as much as I'm not a religious person in real life, it means Christianity is real. And if the devil has stopped appearing on earth in order to get people to walk away from religion, it seems like a pretty good thing good guys would do. Would go, yeah, let's fucking show people that this is not all bullshit. I don't understand that. A cab says, what a plan. Surely it won't backfire. Well, I'm sure it does. I haven't seen the original Omen. I've only seen the prequel. I'm just saying it's a very strange thing, and maybe it's meant to be that shades of gray, because I'm like, wait, are they the bad guys? But it was good. It was a good slow burn horror movie. Great leading actress. It wasn't the best horror movie in the world. I don't want to oversell it, but as we get into spooky season, says awesome. It's a good way to kick it off. Marco drops a super chat. Thank you, buddy. He says, I like water. Okay, well, good for you, sir. There's a scene in the movie, Marco, where there's a woman who's pregnant, and I don't know what it must have been like in the movie theater. We're going to get to games, I promise. I don't know what it must have been like to watch this in the theater opening weekend with mostly teenagers who are the ones who go to movies on opening weekends like horror. But Marco, this woman is about to give birth and she starts these crazy convulsions and shit, right? And it's like, it goes on and on. It's like a 6-minute scene of her just like, you know. And I assume a bunch of teenage kids on Friday night, the audience must have just been laughing their asses off. But when you're watching it by yourself in the dark at home, it's pretty creepy. And then she just sits there and sits down on the ground, and all this water just splooshes out betwixt her legs because her water breaks. And then all hell almost literally breaks loose. It's good people, Marco. So I like water too, but I like that kind of water. The OG Omen is great, everybody's saying. Yeah, no, the fact that it almost feels very much like the end of Revenge of the Sith and the start of Star Wars, or not, I mean, there's a lot of time there, but it's like it just dovetails perfectly into the original. So I'm very much looking forward to it, especially now that I have discovered that good Sir Richard Donner is the creator. I have bad news for us all. As much as we try to hold him in and restrain him and make sure his influence is reflected but not dominating, P. Turtle, our very own P. Turtle, is beginning to affect the women of the world. And in this case, the white women of the world. I know he is a black man and he likes very young women. And I don't know if he likes the black ladies, the white ladies, all ladies. But here's a woman who's gotten a tattoo on her goddamn face of a goddamn P. Turtle. I'm very upset. I'm very worried. Hello, Skunk Ape. Living Legend. Thank you, buddy, for the super chat. He says, Jaffe, I would love, or would you love to see a Puppeteer remake? It's a good question. It was a great movie. It was a great video game from Sony first party Japan in PS3 days. Oopsies. I assume that's playing for Johnny, who's been a member for 43 months. I don't know. Or maybe we have a welcome coming. I don't know. But let me answer this and I'll get to Johnny. Thank you for that, though, buddy. He says, Jaffe, would you love it? So Puppeteer was great. I don't need a remake. It looks so good. It was a 2.5D game that, and it wasn't a success at all. There is Puppeteer reflected in, maybe I made it a little too big. I maybe have made it a little too loud and too big. I'll do some work on that. I'll get to those in a second. But anyway, the point is no. I mean, so you can see Puppeteer remnants in Astrobot. I unlocked the Astrobot Puppeteer character last night. But I think it's a great game. I'd rather see maybe a re-release. Like I would rather. There are a couple games Sony has done that I know it's hard to do. Okay, so what it is, I need to figure out. I'll fix it. I'll fix it for the next show. I'm sorry. So it's doing it every time someone joins, which it's supposed to, but it's also doing it when members are calling in their, their anniversary monthly chat. So I'll fix that tomorrow. But anyway, no. So I'm not aching for a Puppeteer, but I'd love to see some kind of Sony plan to sort of, I would love to see it with Puppeteer, although it's PS3, so you can't really do backwards compatibility, even with the announcement today that they're going with the graphics card, AMD or something, and partially because of backwards compatibility. But I don't think they're ever going to get native backwards compatibility for PS3. But like even Returnal, I would love to see them re-release Returnal. That's a game that could still be a massive hit if they would make a couple of tweaks, put a little marketing behind it, get it out into the world. It would be great. It would be fucking great. But thanks for the super chat, buddy. Johnny, member for 43 months. He says, Jaffe, stay hydrated. Don't masturbate too much. I'll do one. I won't do the other. You got to guess which one. You got to guess. When I vomited in the bed, I just laid in it. I'm not even fucking with you. Thank you, buddy. And then Anthony Filario has joined the Diet Soda Soldiers. He stepped up to the bar and said, Jaffe, is my penis big enough? God damn it, Jaffe. You know, the point is, I'm a very vulgar man, but I assure you my music is not. Anthony, thank you, buddy, for joining the Diet Soda Soldiers. I will read you a fortune from Miss Fortune's Cookies in a couple of minutes. I want to get a couple of news stories done. But if Anthony doesn't get his fortune soon, somebody remind me, including Anthony, and I'll make sure to do it. Okay, let's move on to the video game news. All right, fellas, let's talk about what's happening in the world of video games. Boomstock is going on right now. I will be playing whether live or recorded and then putting up a video. I don't know. Bungie Martinez is so thirsty would love a Diet Coke right now. Thank you, buddy. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you being a member and a supporter for so long. Thank you, sir. Boomstock is over on Steam for the next 7 days. It is a boomer shooter celebration. It's mostly boomer shooters, but it's also just, as they say, kick-ass action games. But most of them, it says, connected by their love for good old days of gaming, shining through in the game's art style, gameplay, or both. Okay, so they got a lot of new stuff and they got a lot of sales. And of course, as always, they have demos coming out their tuckus. And I am very excited to be playing a bunch of these demos. I love when Steam has events like this. Coming off of watching Omen last night, come on now. They have something called Mourn, which is a boomer shooter where you basically play a minister in the church. And you have to get rid of evil shit like vampires and werewolves. There's a lot of cool shit. If you like the boomer shooters, and I know Rob the Mod does if he's watching, a lot of you guys do, get on over there if you have the Steam and check it out. Speaking of Steam, don't forget, while you're over there, Swapfire, one of our God of War members, Swapfire is pushing their game. It's very interesting. It's very cool. We're going to make it part of our game night where we're going to do remote play because it's only local, but you can still play it online with remote play with Steam, where when you shoot people, you don't kill them. You swap positions with them. It's very strange. It's very original. It's very different. It's very clever. That's Swapfire. And you, if you want to get in on the playtest for our game night, going over to Swapfire on Steam and request access. It shouldn't be too difficult. And you'll be off to the races when we settle in on game night. Zack wants to know, are you going to play Plucky Squire tomorrow? 100%. 100%. But is it tomorrow? I thought it was the 17th. That might be tomorrow. Yeah, there's a couple of good things coming out. Plucky Squire, let me find that real quick. Hang on. Plucky Squire is out tomorrow. Oh, well, there's a big game. We'll get to that a little bit later in the show, Zach. But Plucky Squire is coming out tomorrow. There's also an amazing game coming out tomorrow called, I think it's tomorrow or the next day, called UFO 50, which I think is just batshit crazy. But I want to talk about both of those. But Plucky's tomorrow. Awesome's reminding us if you have PS Plus, you get it for, quote, free. Absolutely 100%. Okay. Bungie has stepped up to the plate. Hang on. I don't know where this plate is. And they say they're considering $40 for Marathon. And this has got to be a bit of a conundrum for these fine folks, right, at Sony. Because obviously we know Concord was 40 and it flopped, and Helldivers 2 was 40 and it's one of the biggest games of the year. So what lesson to take? Everybody you ask is going to tell you something different. Somebody's going to tell you, it was because Concord was woke. And somebody else is going to tell you, no, it's because there was too much competition. You know, who knows? Probably a little blend of all this shit. Bungie's not making a game like Concord. They're making a class-based shooter that is more, it's like an extraction shooter. They say it's very similar to Escape from Tarkov with a Bungie twist. The only thing that I know that could be the twist is that if you saw the trailer from ages ago, it's something to do with oxygen amount. So instead of the environment closing in, your oxygen canister is draining. And obviously if you lose it, you die. And so I don't know if they're making kind of an extraction shooter with this kind of oxygen draining mechanic as sort of their twist. I have no clue. But these extraction games in Tarkov certainly tend to be bigger in terms of just scope than a hero shooter. And so I can understand why maybe they would consider charging for it, even though certainly Warzone is not as tactical as Tarkov or realistic as Tarkov. that is free. Tarkov was going to be free when they came out of their early access, but I think they've since said, no, we're still going to charge $50 for it. Awesome Tatum says, though, this is a big mistake. I think Helldiver's success, he says, is making executives friggin' blind. Yeah, I get it, but I also get that maybe Helldivers 2 is making them blind, but shouldn't at the same time Concord's failure, like abysmal failure, make them go, wait a minute? But, I mean, they may just not have the budget. They may not have the funding to say we're going to make this thing and give it away for free. It may not have been built from the ground up as a service-based game. Or maybe it's like the Destiny games, which it's going to start as a paid title, and they're just going to follow that path. They're going to go paid, and then, you know, a year later, if it's a success, 6 months, whatever, they'll flip a few switches, and it becomes something that you get for free, but there's lots of microtransactions. I assume that's the plan, but we'll see. But, you know, I think they've got a lot to prove at this point, given that I think a lot of PlayStation gamers blame them for the fact that we're not currently playing or gearing up to play Last of Us Factions. Because the word is, sounds like it's pretty much confirmed, is that it was Bungie and their knowledge of the space, knowledge being in quotes potentially, that caused Sony to go, maybe we shouldn't be continuing to fund the Last of Us Factions. I don't have the real data on that. I'm just telling you what I've heard. I've heard that. I've heard they closed Factions down because eventually somebody on the team woke up and said, hey, wait a minute. You mean if we make this a service game, we got to keep working on it? That means we're going to be consumed for the next 5 years, the whole team. It's like, yeah, that's what a service game is. Interesting. It's kind of like having a Broadway show and then being like, oh, we got to do it more than once. It's like, yeah, it's a live show. That's kind of what you do. Okay, but anyway, the other thing that's interesting related to Bungie, and I thought this was harsh, but if it's true, good. Bungie had a lawyer that has since left the building. But he said this. His name is Don McGowan. And I'm not entirely sure if he tweeted this or wrote this on LinkedIn. I think he probably did a tweet. I don't know. But he said this. Maybe he did an interview. He says he's glad Sony is inflicting some discipline. That's his quote. Inflicting some discipline on Bungie. It's exactly what was needed. Much though it pains me to say this, it appears, he says, that Sony's inflicting some discipline on my former colleagues may have forced them to fix the things that were wrong with their game. Oh, this was on LinkedIn, sorry. To be clear, he continues, I'm not talking about the layoffs, idiot. Yeah. I'm talking about forcing them to get their heads out of their asses and focus on things like implementing a method of new player acquisition, not just doing fan service for the fans in the Bungie C-suite, and running the game like a business. Good. I still have friends in that environment, and I'd like them to keep their jobs. This is the future. This is the interesting part, too. He says, this is the future I thought the company should embrace after the acquisition. A studio, not an independent company. But there were a lot of egos for whom it was important to pretend that nothing would change. He says, I remember sitting there during the deal saying, do you think Sony describes this as them getting paid $3.6 billion for the right to have no input into what we do at all? That's exactly what a lot of people thought. Well, again, the deal that was shared with the public was that. It was like, you guys continue to be Bungie, but the minute you miss these markers, these milestones of finance issues, we take over. And it looks like that's exactly what has happened. And I guess at least this guy, this ex-lawyer of Bungie, Don McGowan, is happy to hear it. So, you know, I don't follow Bungie all that much. I really have never, I'm not a non-fan of these guys. I've just, you know, I didn't come to Halo. I played Halo 2. I was like, okay, that's cool. I really like that. And then I really never came back to Halo for a very long time. It was like 343 had taken over at that point. And Destiny 1, I played the beta. I liked it, but I never really got into it. So I don't know really what this means. I do think the marathon trailer they showed looked interesting. I do think an Escape from Tarkov, if you don't know Escape from Tarkov, and I won't play it because it's way too fucking hardcore. What do you mean, Twisted Sith? Why am I always on the side of corporate greed? I'm on the side of what sounds like mismanagement at Bungie and Sony coming in and saying, guys, we can't do this. Corporate greed, if you're saying that, Sony gave them the opportunity and the deal. It said, you guys have all the freedom you want. The only way you'll stop having the freedom is if you fuck it up. Well, they fucked it up. That's not Sony's fault. That's not corporate greed's fault. That was the deal they made. But Tarkov, I won't play it because it's too semi and hardcore for me. But it's an open world MMO-ish, but not like World of Warcraft, extraction shooter, where you've got numerous types of missions and then you try to get out before the time runs out or you die or whatever. Sony doesn't really have anything like that, right? And there's not, you could say that Warzone is competition to that genre, and I guess it is. It's not sci-fi, although at this point, given how many weird skins they have, it may as well be. But it sounds like it's a smarter shooter than what a lot of people are used to. And so in that, perhaps if Bungie goes more that route, I get how this could be a big deal for those guys. But I don't know if $40 makes sense. But, again, maybe maybe $40 and then PS Plus for a month. And then, if it doesn't take hold, flip the switch, go to free to play. I don't know. But I do think it looks a lot more interesting than Concord ever did. I don't remember where we saw that initial Marathon remake trailer. Was it on a Keighley show? Or it was it was a year ago. Yeah, so I'll put it up when we're talking. But, and then in that time since, I've learned that what you'll see in a second is like this oxygen tank, like we were talking earlier, that they wear. And that's kind of the thing that really gives it the twist. See that 37's counting down? I don't know if you're constantly having to sort of deal with it or if it's like, because if it's always counting down and it's a constant obsession, I think I'd get annoyed. But if it's kind of more like Fortnite or something where, every 3 minutes you're going to lose a percentage of your oxygen or, and if you run or if you, do certain kinds of maneuvers, it takes more oxygen. So there's a risk reward. But if you do things that push your adrenaline up, like get headshots and stuff, maybe it gives you a bonus amount of oxygen. I mean, there's a lot of stuff they could do with that idea if I am fully understanding the concept of this. And so I am curious, but Bungie's not Bungie anymore, right? Just like Rare isn't Rare anymore. So it's not like you're going to get the guys who made Halo great, most of them, if not all of them. It doesn't mean the people who are there aren't great, but even the people who made Destiny great, a bunch of those people have left. So who the fuck knows? In fact, I want to say this game is now being directed by one of the either Valorant or Apex Legend directors, because the dude who was directing it was forced to leave Bungie because of some kind of bad behavior, inappropriate behavior. I don't know if they were ever specific. Twisted says, well, what about Sony Santa Monica? Is Sony Santa Monica still Sony Santa Monica? No. I mean, it's what is the famous kind of Greek mythology thing where you take a ship apart and rebuild it? Is it the same ship, given that you've changed materials, but it's still the same design? I was talking to a producer I worked with on Twitter last night, and he used to be at Sony. Well, he's gone too. So all the Sony, if I walked into Sony today, it would be very difficult for me to find anyone I've worked with there. It doesn't mean there aren't brilliant people there, but it's a different place now. All the people that I really came up with at Sony in general are gone. So a lot of people talked about that. Like they think I should have, and I get it because my games that a lot of people found me on YouTube because of are Sony-based games. So I guess there's a assumption that I would have this affinity for Sony and PlayStation, but I really don't. I really don't have, I don't care about PlayStation at all. I care about some of the very few people that remain there that I still have affection for, but most of them are gone now. And so I don't give a fuck who wins. I don't care. I want people as humans, my fellow humans, to be happy. But I've said before, I think Xbox has been a consistent bed shitter the last 2 generations, but they still do things more interesting than Sony does. Sony wins a lot more, maybe because they're being conservative and smart and they're more talented. But Xbox does more like, oh, that's weird. Let me check that shit out. I find them more interesting as a video game publisher, but you know. York says Bungie has the capability to make a more accessible extraction shooter, just like they made Destiny accessible looter shooter. But most of that talent has left. Yeah, who's to say? Who's still there running the show? I don't know. Bulbo says, Jaffe, if Bungie called you and asked for your help remotely, would you accept? I mean, I don't think they would, but let's enjoy the fantasy scenario. It depends on what they wanted. I certainly am not the guy to talk to about making shooters. If they're just like, Jaffe, you seem to be a opinionated son of a bitch. Here's the design for Marathon. Give it a read. Any ideas you got, we'll pay you some ducats just to read it and make a video for us privately telling us your thoughts. And we'll use some of your ideas. Maybe we won't. Something like that would be fun. But it's like, Jaffe, come design some levels. No, I have no interest in that. Zack says, I don't understand why everything needs to be a 5-year plan. Could have sold Last of Us Online at $70, supported for 1 to 2 years. Because honestly, I don't think anybody really knows what the fuck is going on or what they're doing. I mean, if you look at here's the deal. You're not wrong, but you're in this place where so many of these massive companies are part of bigger companies, and they are answering to this requirement that is put on them by the assumption that they have to month after month after or quarter after quarter increase their stock. And in that, it is a win for shareholders because once they feel the company has become a husk of its once great self, they take their money and put it somewhere else. But it's really bad for the customers and the company in general. This is exactly what some of the people who have stock in Ubisoft are saying. They're like, I wish they would go back to being a private company, because their obsession with every quarter making more money for the shareholders is really hurting their long-term plan and their legacy. And this isn't working for them. And I think most creative businesses that go public struggle with this. Absolutely. Lutron says, can you let the bag... So as it relates to the $70 thing, Zach, I think it's because everyone's chasing what if you get the brass ring. I mean, just look at Call of Duty, look at Fortnite, look at the games that are very hard to make succeed, but when they do, holy cow, the money just floods in, right? That's why. Lutron says, Jaffe, can you let the cat out of the bag on Connie Booth, the longtime Sony PlayStation executive who was there pretty much longer than anyone other than Alan Becker? And she was, my understanding is she was unceremoniously marched out of the building. I don't know why. I haven't spoken with her in a long time. I don't know if she took the fall for factions. I don't know if she was gunning for the Herman Hulse position, which would make sense. And she kind of came out the loser in that scenario. And so they were looking for a reason to get rid of her. I don't know. But she was involved in some of the greatest PlayStation franchises from PS1 up until when she left. Crash and Ratchet and Spider-Man and all of the Naughty Dog stuff like the Uncharted's. She was a crucial lever that you could pull when you worked at Sony to make sure that your game was going to get out and it was going to be as good as it could be. People point out, says Ravnos, big games taking forever. Never mind how long it takes Bethesda to make a game on their own engine. Everything's kind of taking longer, but again, Astrobot was only 3 years. I don't think it has to, but in this particular space, sure. It's you guys' fault. Not all of you guys, but it's a lot of you guys' fault that demand the fidelity. You guys that, obsess over what Digital Foundry says. Has this system has 0.2% more. That's why. It's not going to sustain because the companies are starting to learn it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter. That's just the only pot that Sony has to piss in, right? Because they haven't built anything really compelling and new for a while in the software world. So they're like, well, yeah, but we do the big graphics. Okay, cool. But when's the last really compelling, interesting game? I mean, they don't do that anymore, do they? Maybe I'm wrong. Returnal was probably the last really interesting game that was also genuinely great that they put out. Like, I love Astrobot, but there's nothing about Astrobot that is innovative. It's really fun. It's charming. It's a great deal of fun, great level design, but you've played it a million times, which is great. Same thing with the Spider-Man games. You played them a million times, but they're great. They're fun. But don't ask me to pretend like I'm supposed to be impressed. Like, oh my God, game of the year. No, shut up. Shut up. No, it wasn't. Idiot. Yeah, Astrobot has some assets taken for... Who cares? I mean, does that really bother you, Ravnos? She says Astrobot has 3 bosses taken directly from Astrobot Rescue Mission. So? Nobody played it. You're gonna fault these guys for repurposing shit in a game that nobody played so they can kind of get the juice out of it somewhere? That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But, okay, listen. I want to tell you this. We already talked about that. I want to tell you this. See this? This is interesting. I want to switch gears to okay, so Addy Pie says the entirety of Astrobot is a reskin of their earlier shit. It's still really fun. Ravno says no, that's why it took 3 years. Really? You think the most time consumption of video game creation are the bosses? I'm not saying it didn't save them time, but to say that that's the only reason, like they shaved, 2 years off because 3 bosses were reskins? Come on. Bulbo says, Jaffe, do you have any anger or rivalry towards Sony? No, and I never did. I nobody believes me, and there's nothing else I can do. I literally put out a video the other night showing off the game that I was making that Sony canceled when we shut Bartlett Jones down. And even in that video, I was like, these guys were amazing to work with, right? I had come off Twisted Metal 2012, which barely broke even. And they still said, we'll set up a company for you, Jaffe. We made that game. We got extension after extension because we could not get the game to run at 60 for the longest time in Unity. Wasn't our fault, but they weren't ready with their PS5 stuff or PS4 stuff. And comes out, shits the bed brilliantly. And then they still say, okay, let's make something else. And we get months to prototype. And then we make this game. And finally they step in and they say, we were funding this with PS Plus, co-funding it. PS Plus is no longer doing this kind of stuff anymore. And so we don't have it in the budget to fund the whole thing. There's absolutely nothing but love I have for my time at Sony. I'm not saying there weren't days that were shitty. There were. And there are people there that I don't like some of the PR people. But on the whole, what a delightful group of people to work with. Morgan says Jaffe's upset at Yoko Taro. He doesn't like that Taro made the hottest I don't even know what that. I don't know what that is. York says, do you think the industry evolved towards the creative side like movies where more staff is more work done, where it should have been into optimizing the software? I think it really depends on what you're talking about. I mean, indie games are more creative than they've ever been. I think the AAA games, because they're so expensive, because they demand things that, my own personal opinion, that, Sony drove the truck or steered the truck in the direction of bigger, more expensive equals better. And they conditioned the audience to see that. I absolutely think that part of the game development process has suffered, and the industry has suffered as a whole after it was used to grow the industry in a great in a great way. Okay. Anyway, let's move forward. I've been seeing a couple of stories. Hang on. I've been seeing a couple of stories about various video games that I wanted to talk about because you guys know I'm a super progressive lefty guy. I love that. I don't love it because it came out of a rage and a remaining unfairness, but I love that whether you're talking about Colin Kaepernick or you're talking about the George Floyd tragedy or a lot of the LGBT stuff that was that group of people being disrespected at best, harmed, killed at worst. The rage led to the change, and I think that's wonderful. But I think we're seeing now what we've always said, or a lot of us on this chat have always said. What do you mean George Floyd? You don't know who George Floyd is? Am I saying his name wrong? Now I'm starting to worry I'm talking about the guy who makes the grill. Who was the guy who made the grill? Who's the guy who made the grill? George Foreman. No, it's George Floyd. Shut up. So grabbing the culture and saying enough, I'm a fan. I think it happens at times. It happened in the 60s. It's important. But as we've always said, and we've talked about it on this show, that end of the day, the money is really what drives these companies. They're companies. Regardless what the Supreme Court will tell you, they're not people, and the companies, and they go where the money is. And so we're seeing that now, right? And I want to show you, I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but if you're excited about Starfield, and I am, I loved the first Starfield, one of my favorite single-player games and my favorite single-player narrative stories in a game of all time. This is a 9-minute deep dive. This comes out in 2 weeks. This is their first major expansion called Shattered Dimension or something. But I just want to show you a minute and a half of it, then we'll talk about it on the other side. I want to see if you're seeing what I'm seeing.
And Crimson Fleet. And humans aren't the only dangers in the badlands of the planet. With the line between reality and the vortex breaking down, creatures from the other side can slip through, like the vortex horror. When you disturb the barrier between our world and theirs, they can sense it, creating these honestly terrifying ambush scenarios.
In the base game, there's a lot of focus around ranged gun combat. You can engage in a firefight from way in the distance. In Shattered Space, we're closing that distance. Space is scary. Part of getting that across is amping up the aggression and the chaos of combat.
So, and again, this is, I'll show you some better examples of this culture war pendulum I'm talking about. But what I think is interesting here is some of it is culture, some of it is ego, but it's all the same. Like this suddenly seems like the guys at Bethesda, and again, I say this as a massive fan of the base game of Starfield, but it seems like suddenly hang on. It seems like you're getting a switch to sort of what we got as kids of the 70s and 80s and early 90s, where you got your pathos and you got character deep dives or semi-deep dives, but it was integrated with more commercial mentality. This feels more, this doesn't feel like Starfield. It feels like there are elements, if you watch the whole thing of Starfield, Ravno says it looks like a completely different genre. That part does. But what I love about this is it reminds me of movies like Terminator 2, which was about something, but it was still action-packed, or even Alien, right? And so, yeah, so Awesome says this is Starfield. I thought it was an indie game. Right. I mean, you could take that as an insult, because I know a lot of you guys don't like this game. But I'm saying I love the fact that it seems like the industry is kind of being forced to go, we need to be able to let us be artistic and writers and have things to express. But we have to remember we are making entertainment. And the best entertainment, in my opinion, and I think the industry, not just games, but movies, books, TV, bears this out, the best entertainment is where 90 to 95% of it is entertainment. And then there's kind of a little bit of a heart in there that you got to kind of look for. So I'm excited for this, but this is just the tip of it. I think we're seeing a shift overall, right? This is coming from, now this is about movies, but it applies, and I'll get you back for some games. Star Wars has become too serious, says Donald Glover. And I like how he frames this. He said he's talking about he's playing Lando again in a movie. And he says, as a Star Wars fan myself, I think it's important there just needs to be fun being had. It's very hard to have fun right now, and this is important, in my opinion. He says it's tough because there are various things happening, and those are the only things that connect us weirdly. So I get why things are serious, but part of the human experience, I believe, is we have a responsibility to have enjoyment, and I just feel like we're lacking in that department. I feel like I have enough control, meaning Donald Glover, and maybe you get painted as a control freak, but it's like, yeah, control allows for there to be a single vision. And if the vision is singular, people want it more. This is interesting, too. This is a great interview. He says the less it is a singular vision, the less people want it because they feel like they could have made it. Look, we live in a time where anybody can fucking make anything. You go on TikTok, there's literally every type of thing on TikTok. There's documentaries, puppetry, there's yarn, stop motion. There is. I've seen it. It's great. So why would you want to see something that you feel like you could have made yourself? I think it's very, very astute, very, very smart. Morgan says Star Wars needs to dump the Skywalker era. He even says that. He even talks about that. He says, let me see if I can find the quote, but here he goes. He says, Star Wars, I love it, but sometimes it be super serious. Sometimes it's like way too serious. Everything that has to do with the Skywalkers is like so serious. Lando, I think the best part about him is he's a scoundrel, and I feel people can relate to that, and he's probably like, man, this war is whack. I need money, which I feel everyone can relate to. So I dig it. I dig it, right? I dig that we are seeing that pendulum swing, not because I disagree with the need for the pendulum to have gone where it went. And the way change works, I guess, I'm 53, I'm older than a lot of you, but I'm not so old that I can say this is how it works, but it seems that's how change works. The pendulum swings to the left, gets some of the progressive ideas, not enough for somebody like me, but for enough for them to be meaningful. Attached to the pendulum, it swings back to the center, and it dissipates some of that progressivity into the world, and the world gets a little more accepting, a little more caring, a little more loving for more people. But I do like that entertainment seems to be going, we need to entertain. Here's another example. I don't like this site because it's a grifty site, that Park Place, but I did like where they wrote this interview. The Warhammer, which I just bought this. Wait, hang on. Vitaphone says, weird take from a guy playing a character spinoff from the Skywalker storyline. Are you talking to me? I haven't seen anything to do, if you're talking about Star Wars Outlaws, which is my game of the year so far. What in Star Wars? I haven't seen anybody mention the Skywalkers at all in that game. Not that it would bother me, but I don't see anything in that game. Now, again, I haven't finished it. Maybe it turns out she's Princess Leia's long-lost half-sister. I don't fucking know. Oh, you're talking about Lando. Okay, gotcha. Okay. But this is the war. I just bought Warhammer right before the show. So I haven't played it yet, but I'm excited. But this is what the CEO, I guess Asmongold, who I'm not I've never watched, watched maybe 8 minutes of everything collectively of his, not because I don't like him. I don't watch a lot of video game streamers. And I'm not shaming anybody. Certainly look at me. I'm just saying that there's something about that guy that kind of looks like his face is a skeleton. Do you know what I mean? It's weird, man. It's like you can almost, it doesn't matter. It's not the point of the story. The point is this. He makes a video about it, and the CEO of Saber Interactive that published this game wrote to him. And he said some things that, again, tie into what we're talking about the pendulum. He says, I can't comprehend many of the current games we play these days. They're too complex and too much of an investment. He's talking about how they wanted to just kind of make more of a throwback old school game with Space Marine 2. And he says, I hope games like Space Marine and Wukong are the start of a revision or a reversion to a time when games were simply about fun and immersion. Space Marine 2, perhaps, and I love Wukong. Wukong is delightful. It's excellent. But I don't know. There's some stuff in there that if you don't look up a guide, you're like, what the fuck am I doing? How am I supposed to get this item and stuff in that game? But regardless, though, I think it's excellent. I love that fucking game. But this is the part I'm really leaning on. He says, I spent some time as COO at Embracer Studios, and I saw games that made me want to cry with their overblown attempts at messaging or imposing morals on gamers. We just want to do some glory kills and get the heart rate up a little. For me, that's what games should be about. Well, I don't agree with that. I think what I do agree with is the more money you spend, the more you have an obligation to make that money back. You always have that obligation, but the harder it is to make the money back and the less you can put your heart on your sleeve as it relates to messaging. But movies do it. Shows do it. Morgan in the chat says games should be whatever the artists want it to be. Yeah, but someone has to fund the artist, right, Morgan? So if you were going to fund a game and you said, look, I have $150,000 for a 2-man indie band to put a game out that they believe in that I think sounds cool, and you need your money back, and you've agreed to sort of what they want to make, cool. But if halfway through one of those people start getting really into the KKK mentality of the old South and wanting to put that into the game, you'd be like, wait a minute. I know you're the artist, but I'm paying for it, and I'm going to lose money if you do that. So I think your view on it, games should be whatever the artist wants it to be, is a little, it's not naive because you're not a naive person, but I think it's more wishful. Because sure, in the perfect world, artists would get all the money to do their work and people would just leave them alone. But it's never been that way. Even before video games, going back to fucking, artists back in the old school days. Okay. I like that. And then I saw this. Now, this is a little bit different, though. This is, first, let's stick to that story for a minute. Not so much Space Marine, but let me ask you guys in the chat. I mean, do you agree? Because you guys know I'm progressive. I know some of you guys and gals are progressive, but most of you guys tend to be more centrist that I talk to in this chat. Do you agree maybe, and I got to be clear on this because a lot of people are like, yep, see, told you, go woke, go broke. Here's maybe part of the problem has been, is that there is a difference between, and I think most people, I'm looking for your thoughts on this. I think most people, when they say they push back on this because it was preachy and it was obnoxious, most people were being honest. But the problem is you had a lot of people stirring the shit pot that clearly were just racist, or clearly were just homophobic, or clearly were Islamophobe or anti-Semitic. And they used this as a way to sort of build up a fan base and a financial earning mechanic, where a lot of people, and it's like, well, they certainly felt at home there because at least on that message, they were agreeing. But I don't think those people were racist that were just going, yes, the quartering, I agree with you. Some of them were. But in this case, I think the real tricky thing is how do we make sure that the kindness and the demand for equity and fairness that I think most people believe in doesn't get lost in the fact that you're going to have a lot of people responding to this stuff going, see, go woke, go broke. Don't put anything in there. Don't acknowledge anything other than white, straight men and women or damsels in distress. And I don't think that's going to happen, but I think the grifters are going to champion these stories as that is what is happening. And I don't think that's the case, but I could be wrong. I'm curious what you think. Vita says most people do not agree with equity. I think they do. I'm sorry, I disagree with you. I think most people are not racist. Okay, you're saying they don't agree with equity, they agree with equality. I'm using both words interchangeably. If you're saying, I mean, help me define the difference then, because I'm assuming they mean the same thing in this conversation. But equality and equity meaning everybody should be able to start from the same place of an experience. Your experience, even though it may be better because you're a white straight man, that shouldn't be the norm. The norm should be everybody gets to start from the same place, which I call equality, but I don't know if we're saying the same thing or different things. Ravno says, the more shallow and snowflake a person is, the less tolerance for any kind of message other people have. Well, yeah, I mean, that's anyone. That's right. Equity equals outcomes. Equality. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So if equity, you mean like equity in the stock market? No. I mean, unless you want to totally change the culture to a socialist business model and economic system, then you're right. I'm not saying everybody who does different work gets paid the same or equal outcomes. No, but I do agree that we're talking about the shots. Everybody gets a shot. And I think most people would agree on that. But I also think that it's important to and I also think there's people that have different experiences where to them, because there was another great article today that IGN put out actually about the real difficulty of making Inside Out 2, which has become the biggest animated movie financially of all time. And they talked about two things. One, they talked about crunch and all this shit and their structure of working under kind of more of a focused visionary like Pete Docter. And it's like, yeah, but baby, the proof is in the pudding. When you're doing creative work or really any kind of innovative work, you get two or three visionaries. And maybe this is what you mean by equity. Everybody doesn't get to sit in the captain's chair on the Enterprise. There's one captain's chair. And in games, it's not always just one. But certainly, they said there was a director on Inside Out 2, and then they brought Pete Docter in as an executive producer, but everyone's like, yeah, but he pretty much was the co-director. And if you don't know, he produced and wrote and directed Inside Out 1, as well as Up, and I think Monsters, Inc., right? So he's the new John Lasseter without being a sexual pervert or whatever. It's like, sorry, that's how, it's like crunch in video games. That's how winning gets done. It's not kumbaya. Everyone's not going to be equal and have a seat at the table. You have to earn that seat. I believe in that. I've seen it work and I've seen it go tits up when people your job is, I got to make everybody feel good. No, you don't give a shit how they feel. They feel good if you win, if they get to keep their jobs. But there was some bad shit going on too. But the bigger thing about the IGN story as it relates to what we're talking about was apparently Disney was pushing back and saying, you got to take the LGBT stuff out. I guess, and I haven't seen part 2, by the way, but and I want to. It's coming on Disney Plus this month. Apparently Riley, the main character, there was a lot of sort of queer coding for her and this character Val. And Disney was constantly pushing back. And even Pete Docter, they're just like, look, canonically speaking, she is not a gay teen. And we need you guys to make that super fucking clear. Because a lot of this stuff, it's very ambiguous. I think we need to be careful because I think normalizing is Muslim folks, Jewish folks, black folks, LGBT folks is super fucking important. But I also think my normal world living in Southern California since I was 18 is very different than your normal world living in Iowa. And so I think, I think you have to be careful. If your job is how do we make more money, which is how do we, maybe I guess what I'm saying is the big budget entertainment that wasn't budgeted as arty-farty indie stuff. Like, I don't hold any ill will towards Dustborn. I don't want to play it. It looks boring. But they were budgeted and they launched as a We Are a message game. But Space Marine 2, that's not what it was built for. And so, Inside Out 2, it was a message for everyone. The only thing that's tough is they talked about how Disney took the message from the failure of the Buzz Lightyear movie that just because there was a same-sex kiss in it, that was the reason it failed. And I think it would be tragic if we haven't come far. We've barely made any steps out of growth in this particular topic. If a fucking mainstream movie can't have, I get that you want to make Buzz Lightyear gay. Okay, fine. But you can't have periphery characters being same sex? That seems, that disappoints me a little. But you know what? We'll get there. Just like we got there with black folks. Just like we got there with women. But it's slower than I would like. That's all I'm saying. But as a fan of entertainment, I like this direction. I like, let's put it this way. I don't think I ever want to make video games again, but if I did and I wanted to do a remake of God of War, I still may not be able to do exactly what I got to do in 2004 and 5, but I'd be closer today than I was a year ago because I don't look at, sex as a bad thing. I don't look at overt sexuality as a bad thing. So, it's interesting. It's interesting times. I like seeing culture and humanity reflected intentionally or otherwise in the work that we all create. Anthony says, I believe Disney has a good amount of LGBT already. We haven't seen a transparently straight character in a while. There is one coming from Disney. There's a very transparently straight character in the new Fantastic Four. Her name is the Invisible Woman. Because you can see through her, Anthony. You get it? Okay. Let's move forward. Yeah. Okay. I want to wait for Anthony to recover. He's probably catching his breath from that crazy joke. I saw somebody on Twitter the other day draw a picture of Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman, and she had made her entire midsection go invisible, but around her ankles were her pants and panties, and her shirt was lifted up to here, but everything between was invisible. So it was a total filthy picture, but you couldn't see it because she's okay. This I don't agree with. I got to push back on my good friend. I don't know if it was Makami who said this or Suda, but they're in cahoots here. He says they don't like the Metacritic. And I understand. I mean, I don't particularly like it either, but I appreciate it as a consumer. But they said, if you've got a game that doesn't fit the formula, the marketability scope, it loses points on Metacritic, he says. The bigger companies might not want to deal with that kind of thing. That might not mean the main reason, but that's certainly one reason why. Everyone cares too much about the numbers. And I want to push back on this. I don't think the issue is Metacritic so much as the issue is prices for games and there's too many fucking video games. Metacritic wouldn't matter as much if games didn't cost what they cost, or Metacritic wouldn't matter as much if there weren't so many other options to play. And I'll tell you something else. So this is an article. It's from Suda, and it's also talking about Makami. And they've got Shadows of the Damned coming out October 31st, hella remastered, right? Now, this game I played originally on PS3 or whenever it first came out, and I really liked it. I'm looking forward to the remake. Here's the difference, though, between this and Lollipop Chainsaw, which seems to be bombing. Apparently, Lollipop Chainsaw is not a very good upgrade, and it's a $45 game. Shadows of the Damned is literally $25. Perfect sweet spot for something like that. Why they thought they could get away selling Chainsaw, even if it was a perfect, beautiful remaster, I don't know. But they certainly, with all the bugs I hear it has, can't get away with it. Lollipop was not worked on by Suda. I thought Suda did it with James Gunn, or was it Mikami that did it with James Gunn? Either way, Shadows of the Damned is Mikami and Suda 51. And it's really good. At least the original was. But $25 is exactly where it needs to be, right? So part of it's price, but part of it's just too many fucking video games, right? I appreciate the Metacritic score. I don't want to sit there and read 50 fucking articles and watch 20 YouTube videos to know if I'm even semi-tangentially interested in something. So, can the formula be gamed? Maybe. That's unfortunate, but, there's a lot of movies that do great that get horrible fucking reviews from the critics, right? I mean, because movies don't cost a lot. Even like this, I don't remember. Let's go to Rotten Tomatoes really quickly. Rotten Tomatoes, there's a movie I want to see called The Uglies on Netflix. And I hear it's terrible. All right, Ravnos, we'll see you soon, buddy. I hear it's just a terrible movie. But I like the idea, though. The idea is about when you reach age 16, everybody gets plastic surgery to become beautiful. They don't want any ugly people, and you don't have to be ugly in that society. The audience is 50-50 on it. Critics fucking hated it, right? If you look at, what was that Sydney Sweeney movie with that she broke out, the romantic comedy, Sydney Sweeney, Madam Web. I liked Madam Web. I thought it was fun. But anyway, Anyone But You has a rotten, 87% of the people liked it, 52% of the critics didn't, right? And so I'm just saying that cost-wise, a big problem with video games is there's too many, they last too long, and they cost too much. That's why Metacritic is necessary. But I agree that in a vacuum, if you're a game developer, if you're not in those top 90s or bottom 90s or upper 80s, yeah, you're going to get left behind probably, unless your game's really cheap or you can somehow get some great word of mouth. A lack of factor is the lack of faith with professional critics. You mean that people have with professional critics? I mean, there's so many of them. You can't find one guy you like. Okay, so don't go to Metacritic, but at least go to one or two people that you're like, I trust that person, right? I mean, does that work for you? This I also thought was interesting, though. I never thought about this, and I'm not a math guy. I will not forget about your cookie, Anthony. I got it right here. This is the writer of this article, a fellow who likes to go by Nick Rubin, as if. He says, rightly or not, a 6 out of 10 carries a different connotation to 3 stars. Is 3 stars? I guess it's if you're on a 4-star or a 5-star. But he's not wrong. If you're on a 5-star rating, and a 6 is a 3, yeah, I think a 3-star, it's like, oh, that game's 3 stars. Feels a lot better than that game is 6 out of 10. So I get how it could kind of mess things up and stuff, but there is, I don't know. I appreciate Rotten Tomatoes. I appreciate Metacritic. I think it gives us a lot that helps us as consumers. Here's one other game, by the way, Hollow Body, I'm very excited about. I'm sure this is going to fall between the cracks. I'll be playing that this week, probably on the show, just for members. Hollow Body, it's $15 right now on Steam. It's like a old school 90s, made by one guy, survival horror. Now, I don't know how much this fella has to make his money back. He's probably already made it back. So there is a way. There is a way. I like that. Morgan says, "Oh, cool! I saw Hollow Body. Yeah, it looks neat. It looks neat." Jaffe, if you want to see an interesting movie, says Bulbo, it's called The Substance. A laboratory offers her a substance which promises to Is this the Demi Moore movie? Is that what it is? A lab offers her a substance which promises to transform her into an enhanced version of herself. I want to see that. And then there's a movie with Megan Fox, which is kind of like a grown-up version of what was that doll movie about Megan, where it's called Subservience, and she's like this, nanny that ends up being a sex bot and looks pretty cool. Okay. Game ratings are nuts, says Cyclown. 8 is great and 7 or below is trash, it seems, which I never understand. I think the problem is that when they cost that much money, and again, I'm not saying $60 is your mortgage. I get it. It's $60. But, anything that's not an impulse purchase, like a movie ticket or 20 minutes of your time to watch the beginning of a movie to see if it's good, there's too much competition. In that is the biggest thing that's going to fundamentally change everything. It's kind of like what Donald Glover was saying. You can go and get free content of everything on the internet now. So you've got to be special and unique and great to get people to make the effort, time-wise, physically going somewhere, or financially. And there's just too much content to let everybody play in this kind of mainstream pool. But, hopefully there's enough people. Hopefully that, 1,000 true fans idea is actually real. And that this guy who makes Hollow Body all by himself, maybe he can build a whole career never having to do anything else, never having to bring on any more help, never having to spend much more than he spent here, just making exactly this. So Morgan says, who's playing average or below? Few. Right, but not so few that you can't make a living if your budget is low. So Hollow Body may not be game of the year. And most people won't play things that aren't even close to game of the year, like core gamers. It's got a 7 or below, fucking I'm out. But if somebody made a game that really resonates with you, I'll show you something. I picked up this game on Steam the other day. I haven't played it yet. And when I was a kid or a teenager, there was a video game that Activision put out called, I think it was called Hacker. And you played I'm just making sure my credit card's not on here. I don't think it is. So I'll have to go back and blur this screen. No, it's not. You played this guy who worked for the CIA, and the whole interface was your computer. And it felt so immersive, right? And that's what this game is. I haven't played it yet, but it's called The Operator, and it's gotten good reviews. And this is it's overwhelmingly positive reviews, right? The number of people who purchase this should be enough to make up the budget. But even if it was a 7, I'm so into all of this, like using the facial recognition tech and looking at people's license plates and trying to solve who the killer was and all that shit, that there is a business to be made. There is a living to be made by speaking to these people, is all I'm saying. And so I love that. But you got to keep the cost down. I don't know how many people made this fucking game, but I can't imagine it was many. Rob the Mod's making his own game he says he's making it he spent $3,000 so far. All right, before we move on, we got a fortune cookie that's got to get read. One moment. So tell me this, Anthony. Let me tell you your options. Hang on, I'll be right back. What's happening? It's just a ghost. Whatever. Shut up. All right. Why are you under your house right now, Rob? When is that Winnie the Pooh coming out, Bukaki? I don't know. I haven't heard about it. Rob's not on it anymore, but it's still coming out, I think. Okay. Fortunes Against Humanity from Misfortune's Cookies, Anthony, or The Boozy Dozen, or The Dirty Dozen. Anthony, which fortune would you like me to give you as a reward for joining the Diet Soda Soldiers. And I want you to understand something, sir. These fortunes are 80% guaranteed to come true. Guaranteed 80% chance they'll come true. It's not bad. It's not bad. Come on now. All right, let's wait for Anthony while I get a sip of the bubbly. Shut up. He wants misfortunes, the first one. Okay, misfortunes against humanity. Brought to us by the great people of Los Angeles local company, Misfortune Fortune Cookies. Here we go. 80% chance. 80% chance. All right, let's wish him well because this could be happening to this dude. And if you're watching the show and you're like, you know what? I want a fortune cookie from Jaffe, not a problem. Sign up at any tier during a live show and I got you covered. There we go. Let's give it a crack. Oh, that wasn't loud enough. Here we go. This is your fortune, good sir Anthony. I'm reading it right now. Always remember the little things. They could prove useful in divorce court. It's okay. Let's try to spice it up a little bit. Always remember. Here's what it would be if it was the Jaffe fortune, not for me, but if I wrote it for you. Always remember the little things, like your cock. Yeah, it's an easy joke, but it's an easy joke. Anthony, seriously, buddy, thank you for your support. Thank you for being part of our little cavalcade of calamity and chaos, sir. A little bit of an update on Astrobot sales. Seems like it's doing better in America, at least right now. What I don't get is this, though. Matt Piscatella, who has me blocked, which I don't even know who he is, so I don't know why. But he says, I don't usually talk weeklies, but I wanted to add some context to the UK reporting from last week. Across both physical and digital, Astrobot ranks second in unit sales for both physical and digital for the weekend of September 7th, behind only NBA 2K. Well, that's great. Here's my question. Why doesn't he want to talk weeklies? What's the matter with these people? If the data is out there, the only guy who ever talks weeklies is this Chris During guy who's the EIC over at GameIndustry.biz. And he'll at least give us the box content of games on Monday or Tuesday to see how the weekend was. If Matty Piscatella has the data, why would he not want to tell? I want to know this shit. This is exciting. I want to know how the industry's moving and shaking. I want to know why things are selling. I want to know what's bombing, what's flying. Hawkins says, I have a feeling the game's going to sell better during the holidays. I agree. And I still stand by, I think we're going to see a bundle and I think we're going to see a price drop on that bundle, but I could be wrong, but people tell me I'm wrong, but it seems necessary. But it's a great game. Is it game of the year? No. It is if you are obsessed with the PlayStation brand, but as a game, no, it's really good. Really, really good. But I don't think it's game of the year, but it's great. But it's good to hear that in America anyway, it's doing pretty fucking good. No. Listen. See, I told you to listen. You goddamn right. Oh, Barely Regal. Barely Regal has stepped up and joined the Diet Soda Soldiers. Welcome, sir. I appreciate you being here. Oh, shut up, Addy Pie, you judgy cocksucking fuck. You fucking miserable piece of shit. I'm sorry, Addy Pie. Was that too juvenile for your intellectual palate? You fucking elitist douchebag. Jesus Christ. Welcome, Barely Regal. We're all happy to have you. Everybody give Barely Regal a pickle tickle and an emote of your choice. Also, Barely, tell me which fortune cookie you want. I'll give you a fortune in a few minutes. But I'm glad this is selling well. I'm glad. Vitaphone says, who cares what number it plays? That means fuck all without the context of how much it sold. It was like people celebrating number one opening during the pandemic. It means nothing. No, but it does mean that there's a little bit of information and a little bit of context. We know that NBA sold brilliant. I don't know, sold brilliantly, but it's, you know, it always sells great. And this is the next best-selling thing. I'm glad to know that it's not being ignored. I'm glad to know that it's digital and physical. It's not being like it had a great first day and it was front-loaded and nobody gives a shit now. You know, I'll take the data. You don't have to read it, but I'll take it. I will tell you what's a little weird, though, is as of today, and this isn't last weekend, but this is the only way I could capture it. But this is at least, if this is accurate, and I don't know on the PlayStation Store, they'll always tell you what the top games are in your country. According to America, my country, you've got, I don't know what this is over here, some sports thing. Maybe it's a soccer game, I don't know. And then Madden is 2, College is 3, Wukong is 4, Capcom Fighting is 5, 6 is soccer, football, whatever. Star Rail is 7, 8 is Dragon Ball, 9 is Valorant, and 10 is the Mighty Mighty Star Wars Outlaw, my game of the year. I don't see Astrobot anywhere on here. But that may have just been it was a strong weekend, and then it kind of fell out of favor for a lot of people. But I hope not, because it's quite good. Okay, so FC25 is FIFA. So what is their number one game? I couldn't capture the whole image, and I regret that now. I don't know what this is over here. But it is some sports game. Oh, this NBA 2K25 is what the number one game is right now. So, you know, take for that what you will. It doesn't seem, if these are to be believed, you know, it's not doing what we thought it was going to do, or at least sustain. But I do agree, though, it's going to have a strong holiday. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I want to get to some comments real quick, and then I want to... let's read this. We got we're going to go into Astrobot. I have a question about it, but barely welcome, buddy. He says, "Howdy, folks. Been meaning to join for a while. The Astrobot chatter tipped me over the edge. Had a lot of fun chasing that platinum down, and I never really bother with trophies. I don't either, and I want to talk about this. I put up a video last night about Astrobot. I'm probably going to do it a couple times, see if people like it. And then if you guys like it, I'll put it behind the paywall and make it a members-only show I do once a week. But I'm calling it Brain and Game. But it's basically like 30 minutes of me playing a game and just talking through it and my feelings and stuff. But I put one up last night for Astrobot. And I got some comments I wanted to read. Because one of the things people were complaining about, or pretty much nobody agreed with me except 2 people on this. I don't know what that means, Stephen Hawking's. It was really cool, not there yet. What do you mean? So I'm not going to play the whole video, but I'll show you the part these people are talking about or referring to. So in it, I was talking about the struggle I have personally, and more importantly, as somebody who has designed video games, with this sort of update on progress that comes to you whenever you are, checking in on a system. So at this point, the easiest system, I have 39 out of 43 bots I've collected. I've collected all the puzzle pieces, and I've solved or opened 1 out of 2 mystery galaxies, right? And I was just saying, as a designer, like if I was still making games and somebody said, you're the lead designer on Astrobot or a game like it, I would really, like part of what being a designer is questioning the norms and sometimes recognizing that those norms are important and they're norms for a reason. And other times it's going, wow, this has become so normalized that we don't question it, but maybe we should. To me, this is one of those things that's been around forever. Certainly Mario 64, probably before. But I don't know if I think this is good design or not. I think it's addictive design, right? I think it makes you go, I got to catch them all. And I'm just recapping. This is what part, not the whole, but part of the video is about. Here, and so I went into this level, right? So this is the level I'm currently fighting this boss. All of these now have blue flags on them. None of them have gold flags. Maybe this one does. But gold flags mean you found everything in that level, right? The challenge becomes, for someone like me, is when I played Spider-Man 1, which I absolutely loved, and I'll get to the chat in a second, fellas. I absolutely love Spider-Man 1. But my brain picked up on the whole collect the Spider-Man doodads about the history of Spider-Man. So everything from Aunt May's wheat cake recipe to the plastic bag he wore when he was trying to trick the Fantastic Four, and a lot of that was just exploring. And you fought a little bit, but I totally ignored about 30, 40, 50% in the main story. I stopped paying attention to it and focused on that because the game lets you. And in a game like this, it doesn't just let you, but it calls to you to complete that. And some people would say, I love that freedom, Jaffe. What's the problem? Why are you always complaining? I'm not complaining. It's one of the hard parts about talking about design. If you were on a design team with me, or with most designers, you would be doing a bad job if you didn't question things like this. You have to question things like this. It doesn't mean you have to change them. It doesn't mean this is a bad call. But what it means is, what this is going to do is take a percentage of your player base, and maybe it's not a big enough percentage to worry about, and it's going to say to them, you may not see a lot of the game because you're going to get your fill of this great game simply because you've obsessed over clearing the gold flags, right? And the other thing about that is the business model and your financial situation comes into play, right? This is not simple. And a lot of the comments I got were and I'll explain the financial thing in a second, but this guy's like, about the bird that helps you find all the missing collectibles. I got that a lot. Like in the game, after you leave a level, if you come back in, you can spend 200 coins. And the 200 coins will let a bird fly around that kind of gives you a hint of where the puzzle pieces and the other robots are. That's not my point, though. I'm not saying I want it to be easier. I'm not saying I need help. I'm saying that if you give me those goals, my brain works in such a way that I'm going to go after these goals, right? Other people were coming at me and saying things like, I struggle to relate to your position. To be fair, I'm only in turn 27. It's somewhat difficulty. But a lot of these people are basically talking about, this is basically, you're complaining about something stupid, Jaffe. Let me find one. Jaffe, I think what you don't see with some people's views is they think you are, that's different. I should have collected these, but trust me, if you go through the comments, there's a bunch of people saying stuff like this guy says, this wasn't a complaint, but he says, if we're talking collectibles, I prefer to know how many there are in each level up front. Once I finish the game, I feel far less motivation to get them. Totally great. There's no right answer necessarily. Okay. But my point though, is even if you look at the financial situation, well, I'm not super, super rich, and you don't even have to be super, super rich. Whether you have ADD or you have enough money or you have a big backlog, like I'm going to be playing Space Marine 2 today. I haven't finished Wukong. I haven't finished Cyberpunk. I haven't finished Elden Ring. Haven't finished this. Haven't finished Star Wars Outlaws, my game of the year, right? Because I have the ability to jump to other games. If you don't also factor in, somebody bought this game for $60, and most people only play one game at a time, right? That is going to factor in to your design decision. So if I was working on this game, I would struggle with this. If I was working on a Spider-Man game, I would struggle with this. I would go, do I make the first playthrough linear? You can kind of choose what planet, but once you finish it, it's locked until the end of the game, and then you can go back. Because you're going to guarantee more people are going to take the adventure that way. Whereas I think this is going to be much more difficult now. I don't know if I'll finish this game. I'm already starting to get bored of it. I really, really liked it. But I don't have a reason. Like, think about that. What is your reason to finish a game? Is it that you're having fun always? Or it's like, well, this is the game I bought and I don't want to buy another game right now, so I want to play something. Like, are you compelled to finish because you're having so much fun? or you're compelled to finish for other reasons outside of the quality or lack of quality of the game design. This is hard shit. It is hard shit. And to act as if thinking about it is a reflection of someone that's just complaining all the time. No, this is the meat, man. This is what, eventually AI will probably solve it and say, I know when this player wants what they want. Stephen Hawking says he's compelled because it's fun. I get it. But after a while, for me, this game, I'm almost at the end, and I'm like, okay, I get it. Sure, there might be a really neat platform section I miss if I don't finish the whole game. But do I really want to, spend 5 hours looking for one or two of those dopamine hits that come when I see something cool? Yeah, I know there's nothing wrong with it, Stephen. I'm saying that what I get a little pushback on is it's okay to talk about this stuff, especially if you love game design. This is the shit. This is what it is. This is, if you say you want to be a game designer, you love games, this is the DNA of it, man. It's sort of what the brain does when it encounters the interactivity, So old Gimpy says, is collection central to the core game loop? If yes, then fucking keep it. I agree, but in this game, is it? It doesn't have to be. It is in this game, but it is only because they've made it so. But they didn't have to do that. But then the question is, would the game have been as good? And I appreciate you subscribing. He said he subscribed when he watched this format, the Braining game. So I'll be doing another one for sure. Let's get Barely Regal his fortune, and then I do want to move on to talk about a little bit of Plucky Squire, which is out, sounds like tomorrow. So Barely, would you like your fortune to come from Fortunes Against Humanity? Would you like it to come from the Dirty Dozen? Filthy! Or would you like it to come from the Boozy Dozen? Where's it coming from, my good sir? Where do you want your fortune, Barely, to arrive from? Let me know. Hang on a second. Okay. Anthony says, I play games all the way through because I am an addict, even if the game is bad for me. Right? Yeah. When in-game fatigue hits, says Pedro, I finish the game because the sunk cost. Right. I don't do that. And I think I get it. I don't think your response is incorrect. I think your response is probably quite normal. But I think it's unfortunate that, to me, that's a crutch, right? I don't finish a movie if I'm bored. I don't finish a TV series if I'm bored. The idea of sunk costs should not factor into entertainment. It does. I think it's normal, but I push back on that shit. All right. Dirty Dozen is what Barely wants. You got it, buddy. Here we go. Dirty Dozen for good sir Barely. Mute Mo, I don't know. Probably. I'm going to stream a game today, but I don't know. I don't know what yet, though. So I might stream Space Marine 2, or I might play the first 2 hours and do a 20-minute braining game. I don't know yet. But if I do that, then I'll stream Star Wars or some of these new demos over on Steam for the Boom Shock. Okay, here you go, Barely. This is it. Crack. Yeah. Okay, my dear friend, our dearest member of the Diet Soda Soldiers, all the way from LA, Misfortune's Cookies wants you to know, tonight you will be treated like a queef. And then it crossed out queef and said queen. It's a visual joke. You got to kind of see it. It's kind of hard to see, but you will be treated like a queef or a queen. I don't know which one would be worse. You could be treated to a queef, but like a queef? What does that mean? How are you treated? It doesn't matter. It's a joke, and he's blessed. Thank you, Barely. I appreciate it, buddy. All right. Oh, no, you guys. We've upset Addie Pie again. Oh, no, Addie Pie. The quality of humor is not to the level. It's not to the sophistication level. PK99 says there's new info and concept art for the new Battlefield. What game are you talking about? Hawking says, if I wasn't on my own fucking Stratera, I wouldn't finish 90 of the games. It's nice not to be mean to people who have mental issues. If Jaffe can't finish it, so be it. That is him. Stratera. Is that a drug? I'm not sure I understand. I didn't write it. Okay. Vitaphone says, treated you like you were gross and everyone will pretend you didn't happen. Wait, what? I don't understand. Okay, let's move forward. Tomorrow, Plucky Squire is out. It's like Ritalin. Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. It's important shit, man. Mental health. We all know what this is. This is cool. This is, I imagine it's good because it's Devolver. I don't think reviews have dropped for this yet, which is kind of surprising. But this is the thing that lets you jump. It's like Zelda Link Between Worlds. It's got a lot of 2D, 3D gameplay that you can jump between. And that's cool. I'm a little worried they haven't put a review out, but fuck it, it's free. I mean, there's a great example of business model affecting everything. This game is, quote, free on PS Plus tomorrow. So even if it comes out and gets shit reviews or average reviews like a 6, I'll still try it. But if it wasn't, and it was a $30 game or a $25 game, and it came out and got a 6, I'd be like, nope. No, thank you. But it could end up being my favorite game, but there's too much to try, too much to play. But I'm looking forward to this, and I'm really looking forward to this. This comes out, I believe this is tomorrow. The reviews have dropped today, but it's definitely this week. It might be the 18th. Lutron says, I'd like to finish Astro today to start this tomorrow. That's the thing, right? I mean, I'm not going to fucking finish Astrobot or anything else today because I'm starting Space Marine. And then after Space Marine, I'll probably drop that and go to this. I don't, now, I mean, there are people who can pull it off. Gene Park's one of them. I'm always fascinated by Gene Park from the Washington Times. It's like, oh yeah, I went, the other night he tweeted that he went back and he's like, I'm playing Wukong New Game Plus again. I'm like, again? He already finished it once. Now he's playing it again. The fuck are you talking about? Who? But he's fast, man. He's fast. York says, interesting, dynamic UI that adapts based on the way you play, where if you're a completionist, the game UI gives you hints for that purpose and guides you through. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. AI is absolutely going to be the solve for all of this stuff. All of this stuff. You're going to get, custom-based entertainment. Unless you don't, because the individual vision, like Donald Glover was talking about, is so compelling. But you already see it with linear media. You see it on, this show, Gabbin' and Games, it's not even close to being the biggest video game YouTube show. The biggest video game YouTube show would not even come close to clearing the barrier of acceptability of viewership on television 30 years ago, right? So people show up when you niche that shit down, because there's an audience for almost everything. And games are going to start to write that in real time. It's pretty fucking cool. I don't like Tencent very much, but Tencent came out with a video recently, and it's very early. But it's an open world AI procedural generator for video games. And it's not working in real time totally yet. But what it'll do is you can say, I want this kind of character, I want this kind of world, I want this kind of behavior, and it makes that. And the only thing that you can interact with it right now is almost like a branching movie where you can tell the character at any time to turn left or turn right or keep going forward. But it is the foundation for holodeck-like game design, which is like, you're playing a game like Wukong, and whether it gets too hard and the game recognizes that my too hard is not your too hard, my too hard is normal for you, and it adjusts, or it recognizes that I, for whatever reason, whatever factors it checks, oh, he's ready for an exploratory puzzle section, right? But it's still built on the bones of the designers going, this is our world. It's fucking cool. It's fucking cool. All right. UFO 40 comes out tomorrow. Here's what I'm going to do. It's a 9-minute video. So if this is where I leave you, I appreciate you watching the show. This is where we part ways. I'll see you tomorrow. But I'm going to make my face a little bit smaller here. And I want to show you this because this is a review of it. And this is going to do a much better job if you don't know what this is. But it's important. And some people are, Eurogamer gave it 5 out of 5 stars today. I don't know if Eurogamer is necessarily being hyperbolic or not, but it seems like this could be pretty important and pretty special as it relates to the art form. So I'm going to put 9 minutes up, and then we'll talk about it on the flip side, okay? But I'll be watching it with you. If I get up and leave, I'm just getting a Coke. But here we go. Let's watch it. And I'll probably, in fact, you know what? I'm going to get a Coke right now, and then I'll watch it, but I'll stop it when I want to say something. That way it's not like I'm just vanishing, and there might be a reason to stop it. So give me 2 seconds. Just got to run upstairs. Hang on. All right. Here we go, my friends. This is UFO 50.
As someone with multiple videos about this game, I want to start by saying UFO 50 was never going to disappoint me. Derek Yu, the creator of Spelunky, a game that changed my life in 2020, getting together with his friends and making 50 games was a concept that was made for me. I have waited 8 years for this monster of a game, and now that I've played it for over 50 hours, I can definitively say basically nothing, since I've barely scratched the surface of it. But what I can do is give my thoughts so far on this massive game collection. UFO 50 is a collection of retro...
Addy Pie has got to be trolling. Yes, Steven. It's supposed to look old. Let him explain it to you so I don't have to.
...style games for a fictional piece of hardware from the 80s made by the company UFO Soft. The games range from short arcade games to a full-featured JRPG. I spent the last 2 weeks trying every game in the collection, and while some of the games didn't click for me immediately, I have grown to appreciate the slot every game fills in this fictional console's library. Every game has a place, separating itself visually and mechanically from any of the other games. Even the sequels, yes, there are sequels, distinguish themselves as unique entries and change up just about everything from the previous game.
It took 8 years to make, multiple game developers.
Every game has 3 completion goals. A gift for your house on the menu, which usually consists of beating an early objective in the game, a gold disc for beating the game and getting credits, and a cherry disc for doing something above and beyond, like getting 100% or beating the hard ending. The challenge to get every cherry disc is going to be insane, for even the most experienced players. Here are some stats. After 50 hours, I have 20 gifts, 10 gold discs, and only 2 cherry discs. I can't even give you an estimate of how long it will take to get all the cherries, since it doesn't give you the details until you've gotten the gold. Alright, I'm getting into the weeds on this completion stuff. What can I say? I like a hard completion challenge. But as far as my thoughts on the actual games go, I don't even know where to begin. Should I start by saying that Porgy is a brilliant SteamWorld Dig-esque Metroidvania? Or talk about how Bug Hunter is a brain-melting grid-based tactics game where you are always one move away from a game over? Or maybe I should talk about the 25 multiplayer games in here. I simply can't talk about every game in this review, so I'll be putting out my thoughts on all 50 games in a massive video tomorrow. Subscribe for that. But what I will say here is that there is something for everyone. Whether you want to drill down and speedrun a game for the next 2 years, or simply dabble in all 50 games for 30 minutes, you are sure to find something to enjoy. There's a 10 to 20 minute long arcade racer, a multi-hour point-and-click adventure game, a Metroidvania with a VVV style gravity flip. The amount of variety on display is truly something. I personally find myself drawn to the big games with the continue feature, organized under the category on the main menu, Epic Play. But the arcade games that brutally send you back to the start of the game are great to play in short bursts. Speaking of brutal, some of these games are tough. So tough, I found myself saying, wait, are they serious? Many times. Campanella 2, a procedurally generated game where you control a small UFO with limited fuel, as well as the pilot of the ship Isabel in on-foot segments, is not afraid to send you right back to the main menu with the slightest error in movement. That's not to say every game in here is for masochists. Night Manor, the point-and-click adventure game I just mentioned, has no real fail state, with the challenge being derived entirely from how good you are at combining household objects to solve obtuse puzzles, as the genre is known for. And I found the games with a save feature to be generally more approachable, simply because you aren't tasked with playing the whole game in one burst. I don't want to linger on it too much, since I generally love most of the collection, but there are a few games that haven't clicked with me yet. And I want to emphasize the yet, because even with 50 hours played, some of these I've only scratched the surface of, with 20 to 30 minutes played. To give you a specific example, Combat Ants, I genuinely think I might be missing something, because it really wasn't very fun to play, and with there being minimal tutorials and no manual, I can't quite figure out what I'm missing. It's an RTS style game where you control the lead ant. To create more units, you have to feed your queen, but I was struggling to get my workers to deliver the food on their own, when the game makes it seem...
Okay, so as he's talking, I want to read you, I'll leave it up, but I want to read you some of the things that Game Informer is saying about it. Or not Game Informer, Eurogamer. This is what the review, which is 5 stars for this game, says about this. What do you mean, Cosmic? Not fun to play an issue? It sounds like there's out of all the games, you'll find a bunch you'll like. He says there are 50 games, all made by a fictional game developer called UFO Soft for its fictional games machine, the LX. UFO 50 has a lot of fun with this fake history stuff, alongside controls and genre notes and completion stats. Each game comes with a fake fact about the game and the impact that it made back in the day. Party House, for example, has characters based on people the developer knew. Is this fact actually fake, or is it just applied in a fake way? It's all part of the fun. Onion Delivery, meanwhile, was inspired by its developer's experience as a courier. Some games will share characters, and the game will talk a bit about the chronology of the console's main stars. This one was the first game with the Campanella in it. This one was the last. You see taste change. You get to see developers squeaking just a little more out of the tech. So the tech improves in the games as the fictional games get further into chronology. You get to see trajectories of characters, reuse of sprites, the evolution of ideas and genres. All of this is made up as well. That he only really focused on 3 games. He says that's just 3 games out of 50, just a few of my favorites. It's impossible to give you the breadth of this collection. And also, I increasingly think I shouldn't. There's stuff here which you're meant to discover on your own. At times, I'm inclined to think UFO 50 is more than anything about the experience of encountering art. It's about standing on the edge of it, staring into it with wonder and wariness. It's about asking yourself whether you have the energy for it, for all of this new thought and experience in your life. I'm going to read this next sentence, but I don't understand it at all. He says, if you've ever wondered, do I really have the vigor to become a Brian Eno fan at this stage of proceedings? How many albums is it now? And the atomic clock stuff? Yes, UFO 50 is sort of that feeling. I don't know what that means. When I think of games at the point when I met them as a kid, the word that kept coming back was scarcity, cost. $40 for a Master System game. And with that 40, the fact that choices mattered, so it was a rare to come across something I did not choose. Rare to experience the strange form of love when you discover you click with something that you hadn't considered. It's another reason subscription services are so great. Both Playdate and UFO 50 are trying to do that gorgeous magazine-y bundle of things, making sure to include things you would never personally choose, along with the stuff you know from the start that you want. They're both trying to prod you out of your own interest a little, which always feels valuable. UFO's 50 is not the hot new game for a week or two, in other words. Even putting aside some of its more enigmatic and hard to excavate secrets, it wants to be a companion for a good chunk of your life. It wants to unfold over time, revealing new aspects of itself as you're ready. That's an exciting ambition, if you ask me. And it's 5 stars. Let's see where the Metacritic is on this. Metacritic UFO 50. See, I like Metacritic. It helps. All right. It's sitting at 91. It's got, it's released on the 18th. So, you know, we have a day to play Plucky Squire. 91 on Metacritic. Universal acclaim. IGN gave it 100, at least the German version. 95 got as a geek. The New York Times gave it a 90. PC Gamer gave it an 83. A superb retro-style smorgasbord in real danger of drowning out its own consistently good work. I guess what it's saying is there's some that aren't good, and you got to find the good ones. So, what's the price? It's a good question. I don't know. Let's find out. My guess is it's like $20, but maybe more. Steam UFO 50. Yeah, there was a great article on this in Edge back in the day. They've written about it a couple of different times, but it doesn't say how much is. You guys guess. Let's see. Okay, here's a review. Let's see if the New York Times tells us what it'll cost. Because, yeah, that's important. Steven says I would pay $20 for it gladly. Yeah, I don't see a price yet. Here we go. Let's see. Reset Era says this in terms of the cost. I think they have. Edge gave it a 9. It says 50 games for the price of one indie. So my guess is $25 or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, Zeke. Yeah. Yeah, price is TBD. That's really interesting that they have not yet said, or if they have, it's not easy to find, but I guess we'll know tomorrow. Expect to pay, not listed. Nobody knows. Nobody knows. On a fucking PC. Is it only on PC, Jezbelly? Hang on. Is UFO 50 on console? I don't think so. Not yet. It says they have ports to consoles planned. So I will be buying it, of course. I will be giving it a shot. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, barely can't see a price either. PC only for now, but they will be porting it. But there's so much to play. There's so much fucking to play right now that who knows, okay? All right. Who's the dev, Morgan says? Well, the dev is the main dev is the guy who did, what's that thing called? The Spelunky games. Is that right, Rob? Okay. But he's working with a bunch of other devs. So I think there's like 6 devs that have worked on this as the main devs for about 8 years. So am I playing Dead Rising Remastered? Yeah, but probably not right away. There's just too much other stuff to play unless the reviews come out. And it's like I'm more interested to play Shadows of the Dam Remaster just because I've played it before back in the day and I liked it. But, you know, we'll see. I'd like to close with this. Stardew Valley Lego build recreates the entire Pelican town. I'm not a big Stardew guy. I could just never find an interface for it that I liked. But I do appreciate what it is. And I thought you should see this because this is kind of cool. Maybe. This is not what I want to see. No, I don't give a shit about this. I want to show you Stardew Valley. Have you seen this yet? He built the whole town. Yeah, Derek Yu. He built the whole town. Here it is. Look at this shit. Open up. Come on. What's going on, boys? What? That's not it either, is it? No. All right, I want the Stardew Valley thing, you son of a bitch. Here it is. Check it out.
Welcome to Lego Stardew Valley. This is built by Steve Jensen with 75,000 Lego pieces. While I've never played the game myself, I love the way he's captured all these different colorful buildings. Like this building here with the ship's wheel on the front and the multicolored roof. And then all of the different paths and kind of landscaping. You've got these rivers that run throughout here. The workshop, the ice cream stand over here is really nice. Back here, the Joja Mart, which is kind of like a warehouse type building and a really unique color scheme. And then the adventurers section back here. And then the Stardew Valley sign itself, which is really impressive with all Lego brick built lettering. So it really kind of creates an overall really nice effect on the scene. You've got the rundown community center with the vines and leaves running around it all back there. The bus in the background there going into the tunnel.
Now, I think
the farm itself on the left side, which has
yeah, Pedro says it's amazing. Yeah, it's cool.
Large farm animal buildings.
And then I think there was a thing maybe this weekend or last weekend that was like the convention, and maybe it was in San Diego, but they built fucking. You got to go. Somebody built a Pirates of the Caribbean ride, right? It's pretty cool. Where was this place? Beyond the Brick. It was a convention. I wonder if I should have gone. Beyond the Brick. Let's see. Let's see. Convention. Yeah, convention. Let's see. Brick convention. Here we go. Oh, it moves around. Okay. Oh, well, maybe it's coming to your town. I want to go if it's coming close to me. It's coming to Minneapolis. Is that Minneapolis, Illinois, Oklahoma City, New Orleans? Rob the Mod can go. Kentucky, Springfield. All right. Well, hopefully it'll come here if it's not already been here. But that shit's cool. And so you get to, you waiting for a hammer? You son of a bitch. But it's cool, though, because, you get to go and, if you've ever been to, like, Legoland or whatever, it's really impressive to just walk around and see what people have made with this stuff. It's a fun, kind of casual, chill thing. So I recommend. I became a hermit that was rich in Stardew, says movie. My farm basically plays itself now. I find it compelling. Absolutely. Yeah, Rob, take some pictures. You goddamn right. There's a Hall of Justice. Come on now. All right, I have a question for you guys. A little bit later today, I'll probably be streaming one of two things. I'm going to put up a poll. I'll either be streaming, I'll just put it right here. Okay. I just want to let you guys know if there's people in the chat that bother you, you can mute them in the chat. I'm not saying that about anybody specifically. All right, here you go. And I don't block this individual. I'm just saying, you might want to, because some people do. Because it's too much negativity sometimes. That's all I'm saying. It's just too much. It's too much. All right, let's see what you guys are saying here. Oh, look at that. It's pretty close. It's pretty fucking close. I'm surprised it's that close. 53% want Space Marine, 56%, 40. Oh, interesting. Vitaphone, there's a very easy way to mute me. You can just go watch something else. All right, well, I'll tell you what, given it's this close, I didn't expect it to be this close. I'll surprise you. So if I stream later today, which I probably will, it'll be members only chat. So if you want to chat, talk, consider membership. I'll see you later today. But seriously, in the meantime, though, like the show if you like it, of course. Subscribe if you want. Become a member if you want. That show we were talking about earlier called Brain and Game will probably end up being behind a paywall. That's a members only show, but I want to make a few episodes first, give people a sample. I'll see you tomorrow or later today. Be well, be safe. Thank you guys very much. Mods, thank you. New members, welcome. Super chats, thank you. And, will I jump back to Starfield? Yes, 100%. I thought the Starfield deep dive, I played Starfield a couple of weeks ago or no, last week, because I wanted to try out the driving, and I love that game. I absolutely love that game. So, but yes, Bukaki, thank you. Rob, thank you. RPG, thank you. If I missed any mods, I apologize. Bulbo, I'm working on I Love the Weird. I got some crazy shit I found. We'll do an I Love the Weird, I promise. Very soon. Probably this week. There's a think about this for a minute. The Senate and the House of Representatives, federal level, both of them are having hearings, they're saying, in September about UAPs, UFOs. Nancy Mace, who's the hottest goddamn politician I've ever seen, is going to be chairing one of them. I'm excited, man. I'm excited. There's some crazy shit happening out there. But in the meantime, be well, be safe, and thanks for hanging out. I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.